But what I figured out is I've done ice baths, I've done sauna, I've fasted for 6 days on only water, then 5 days and 6 days on only water. I've done vegan, I've done raw, I've done paleo, I've done it all. And the best medicine has been humor and laughing. Like I could watch inappropriate comedies or like episodes of SNL on repeat and laugh with my friends. And I'm sure you all know this. Like when you have one of those days where you laugh so hard with friends, you're like crying, like you can kind of eat whatever you want and like go running and you feel good and you wake up refreshed. You could stay up all night, but if you're laughing and having a good time, you kind of feel okay the next morning.
This week, we're joined by Shelby Stanger, a podcaster and San Diego native, which hits home for you and me, Berman. We both love this town, but we really get into this show about her two podcasts, Wild Ideas Worth Living, and how she sold that to REI, and also her new podcast, Vitamin Joy.
She's a badass. She's a badass who wants to make people laugh. I mean, I love that. She's got this new podcast, Vitamin Joy, and just how that is the remedy for health. And what was really clear is that she cannot do things she doesn't believe in. So if it's in her soul, she's into it. By the way, I'm not totally certain she was wearing pants. She never clarified that question. And if you're curious on that one, I think you're going to like this particular episode.
Shelby, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks. And nice to meet you, Ryan. Excited
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, it's a rainy day in San Diego, few and far between.
I saw lightning in San Diego. It was so exciting.
I actually grew up here and know you have a lot of love for San Diego and Berman does. He moved out here and he's never leaving. And so maybe we just start there. Maybe you can just share with us, talk a bit about San Diego, why you love it here and what you've been doing.
I was born and raised in San Diego. I don't know. I mean, my dad came here because he was a dentist for the Navy. And so I was lucky. I grew up in Cardiff by the Sea, the shabby town of Cardiff, which is now super hipster. I call it millionaire van life. And we moved to this town called Bird Rock, which is a little beach town in La Jolla when it was really inexpensive. So both towns were super inexpensive when we lived there. And now they are like slightly unaffordable. But San Diego is great. I mean, the people here are amazing. There's so much. What's cool is now there's so much science here. So there's all these little brainiacs that you can only find when you're at certain coffee shops in certain parts of town. And then there's this great beach culture. It's very laid back. The beaches here are beautiful. We live now in a town called Solana Beach. Home to
Me too.
You do? You're my
Yeah.
neighbor. So we're basically
I'm your neighbor
in person. And I just like it here. San Diego's a great town. There's a lot of smart people that are doing things, but also there's just a great laid back culture with lots of waves. There's still places where you can find waves without too many people. And there's great running. So I like surfing. I like running. I like talking to people. And there's even great coffee shops here.
There's a lot of great things happening in San Diego. It's been on this progression with restaurants, the business culture, and just the culture in general. I'm a surfer and a runner too, so nice. I feel you on that. And I think you and Berman maybe met at Creative Mornings. Is that right?
Yeah.
When you guys first talked to each other?
We had an 11-second conversation because you were about to go on stage, and we were like, hey, yeah, let's catch up.
Nervous.
You did so good.
Oh, you're so sweet.
You killed it.
I'm so nervous. It's hard speaking. Like, it's easy right now. It's just you and me, and we're in front of a screen. But there, like, I had to be in front. I had to wear clothes. Like, that was the other thing. I had to wear not just a top, but bottoms too. I'm butt naked underneath this top, guys. I'm just kidding. So that was a little nerve wracking. Just all these people just there to see you. So Creative Mornings, you go. You're the keynote speaker. Ryan, you did it, but like I had never done that. There was a lot of people there watching me and my mom. So yeah, my mom was a professor at San Diego State. My stepdad was an athletic director there. We have been always active in the community. So San Diego is just a great place. My mom was the first elected official of Cardiff by the Sea. And I was in this like really cool program growing up called the Aaron Price Fellows Program. It was started by the family that founded the Price Club, which sold to Costco. And they do so much give back in San Diego. And the idea was they took two kids from most of the San Diego Unified schools. Mine was La Jolla High. and they get them access to these programs so that they can be active civic leaders and give back to the city later on. One of the members is now our mayor. So there you go. It works. I'm just a podcaster, but they're still working on me.
The city's big, but it's actually really small. And
Yeah.
you start finding all these different connections you have. And, my family ended up here because of the Navy as well. And now we're never leaving. But maybe you can just take us through, this is a podcast about courage and those nerves. So you were a journalist and you got into podcasting. Maybe you can talk us through that first leap into podcasting and then that next big leap to getting on stage in front of a bunch of people and how you face fears and got through those moments.
Well, I mean, I think for me, if I don't face my fear, I develop anxiety, right? Like if you don't do the thing that scares you, it'll eat you up inside. So I started my podcast because I know I don't brush my hair and you can't really tell by just looking at me, but I have a little bit of perfectionist syndrome. And I love to be really good at the things I do, especially my work. And part of the reason I started a podcast was like, I had to get over that. When you create a podcast, the way I was doing it, I was going to have a show every single week. And I had to go kind of fast because there was a lot to do. And so I had to get over my perfectionism syndrome. And that was like one of the biggest things I took from starting a podcast is like, you're going to have to put out a show. It's not going to be perfect. I'm stumbling right now. No one is going to care. And that's about having courage. I started my podcast because I'm a little scaredy cat. Like, yes, I surf and I played soccer at a really high level in college and on the Olympic development team. And I'm a runner, I'm an athlete, but there'd been so many times in my life where I felt stuck, just scared to, in 2009, for example, I had this really great job on paper. I was head of international marketing and sales for Vans, the shoe company. I was flying on private jets to like Colombia and Peru, but I wanted to be a writer and I was marketing shoes and I had a great job. It was the height of the recession. Magazines and newspapers were folding. Everybody's like, you are absolutely crazy for quitting. And by not quitting and being in what I call limbo state, which is like hemming and hawing between quitting and not quitting, which I did for about a year, I started to develop kind of a depression, which just sucked. And I had all this anxiety about it because I wrote a million pro con lists. And on paper, quitting made 0 sense. And I started freelancing on the side. And I was mostly trying to pitch stories to outside magazines. It's kind of a long story, but I'll get there. And when I was pitching these stories, I was interviewing, the assignment was interview regular athletes doing something remarkable. And I was interviewing this lifeguard who like paddled on his surfboard or on a paddleboard from Manhattan Beach to Catalina, which is like 28 miles. And then he'd run a marathon when he got there and paddled back for fun. And I interviewed these girls who skateboarded pools in empty backyards that had been ravaged by fire. So there'd been these like beautiful pools sitting empty and they'd just hop the fence and they'd climb them. They'd climb the fence and then skate these pools. And these were moms. These were like these crazy moms that just charged skateboarding. And so in hanging out with these people who had more courage than I did, I started to get the courage to kind of go for it, finally quit my job, be a journalist for a while, like 8 years. I lived in Costa Rica. I lived in New Zealand during that time. And I continued to do a ton of adventures during that window. And then in 2016, I got a little tired of how my stories were getting edited for magazines. Magazines were shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And at the same time, I loved podcasting. I just loved this old school storytelling format with mouth to ear. I could listen, in my underwear, cleaning my room or whatever I was doing, driving in the car. And I loved Tim Ferriss's show. But I was like, it'd be so cool if Tim just interviewed more women or if he just talked to more adventurers, because that's what I'm interested in. And everybody was like, you should start one. And I was like, I've never done a podcast. I don't know how to edit. I don't even know how to use a microphone. I have no business. Like, I hated in journalism class when we had to edit our own video. Like, it was so hard back then, the editing software. It's a lot easier now. Long story short, I was like, I need to start a podcast. And I just got the courage to go for it. And I have a lot of ways I now get over fear and how I deconstruct it. But, there's this old saying, and this is kind of sounds wishy-washy, but it's actually something from Alcoholics Anonymous. Like there's a few alcoholics in my family, love them. My mom works in interventions and does drug and alcohol prevention for a living. But it says courage is fear that has said its prayers. The only way to get over fear is to do the thing that you are afraid. And I have one more story about fear that I'll tell you. And that's when I first quit my job to go and be a freelance journalist in 2009 at the height of the recession. I put some balls in motion. So like, I think part of facing fear is getting educated and fast, but also doing some work to set the balls in motion to get over your fear. So part of that was telling PR people, hey, I'm going to quit my job, or I'm thinking of quitting my job. And if I do, if you have any stories, think about me to cover them. And this girl called me the day I quit my job at Vans, the day I decided to give notice. She's like, hey, Shelby, there's a group of guys going surfing in Indonesia in this place called the Mentawais, which is this remote archipelago in the middle of nowhere. And the guy covering it dropped out. Do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, sign me up right now. They wanted a guy. I had to prove to them that as a girl I could hang, but and then on that trip, I had to surf some waves that were terrifying. And I was with this lifeguard and he gave me some tips about fear. He said, fear is just the unknown. So the only way to get over the unknown is to get knowledge. And sometimes the only way to get knowledge is just to do the damn thing you're afraid of. The second thing he said is, particular to surfing, I would get so scared and I'd get held underwater. And being underwater is scary because you can't see shit and you don't know what's going to happen to you. And you feel like you're underwater for like 30 seconds when you're really underwater for 3 seconds. He said, when you're underwater, sing a song. And so like I picked That'll Be the Day When I Die, which is like a terrible song to sing underwater when you don't want to die. So then he's like, sing a different song. His advice was so simple. And so I picked You Are My Sunshine. So part of it was like, sing a song, get yourself into a positive mindset when you're scared as much as possible. And then last thing he said is, every time you fall, start saying, make it, make it, make it. And, mantras are powerful. I mean, sometimes they're bullshit. Like if you're saying you're a millionaire and you work a job where you are clearly making no money, gratitude works more strong than mantras. But sometimes you do have to just make it until you make it, if you know what I mean. So it's a long answer. I'm working on some book material here, so
that's good.
I think if any of this works.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and this concludes the Courageous Podcast today with Shelby Stanger.
Sold.
Look, I'm just smiling because there's so much. Well, first of all, I know if I had to guess what Ryan Thompson would say next, let me see if I could get it. This is like the old. If I can predict, he would say, "Do you know what our definition of courage is on the show?"
I don't know, and I love the whole idea behind it and how amazing your guests are. So tell me.
So we think, again, it's pretty simply knowledge plus faith plus action. It has to be all three.
So the faith part for me was really hard.
Well, that was the music as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, that's true. So for me, when I quit my job, like I was raised to like all religions, but I wasn't raised with one spiritual practice. When my dad died suddenly when I was 11, I was like, Mom, can I go to temple? Technically, my dad was Jewish. She's like, yeah, but like the temple was pretty strict. It was like, eh. Anyways, we tried it out. Anyway, so I didn't have this huge sense of spirituality growing up. So when I quit my job and it didn't make sense on paper, someone gave me this poster and it was a picture of a staircase leading to nowhere. And it had a quote by Martin Luther King. And it said, faith is knowing when to take the next step, even if you don't see the whole staircase. And I was like, oh, so basically it's like jumping into this giant ocean, not knowing if there's like water or sharks underneath it and hoping you'll be able to make it.
Assuming you have the knowledge to know enough. And so we always talk about, to me, knowledge and faith. The faith to us, faith is the feel. Knowledge is the think and action is the do. And so, when you ride those crazy ass waves and you've never done it before and you're learning these 3 steps to go do it, that's part of the knowledge. And then you believe you can actually do it. That's the faith part. So we don't look at faith as really a religious. And then if you just, that little thing that you talked about earlier about it would absolutely drive you mad if you didn't do it because you've been thinking about doing it, but you're not doing it. That's paralysis if you don't do it. So the irony is 2 or 3 in any direction. Knowledge and faith without action is paralysis. Faith and action without knowledge is reckless. And knowledge and action without faith is status quo. So it has to be all 3 for it to be a courageous move.
Well, you guys need to come on my podcast then. Done.
Okay, great. Well, you can just use this. You can just use this content. No problem.
You just will. Perfect. We'll just rip it and put this in Vitamin Joy. Love it.
Well, let's talk about your non-BS approach. And it's obvious that you keep it real, which is so great to hear. And like that's another sort of sad truth that we've heard on the show is that really just being honest is like an act of courage. But everywhere we've gone, especially when we've talked to corporate, people are like, "Well, I just try to keep it real. I just like we got to talk about the truth. We got to get the truth on the table." I'm like, why are we lying to each other? Why aren't we having the actual conversation then? Like, that seems to be a big problem, don't you think?
I mean, I'd lie, but I'm just a shit liar. So that's the problem. It's like I'm terrible at it. Like I'm the worst. I can't even like I can't do anything. I can't even like lie to my boyfriend that I didn't like eat his food. I'm like, oh, yeah, I ate it. Sorry.
Well, so zero BS podcasting. This is how you describe yourself. What does that mean?
Well, so a lot of people started hitting me up for advice about starting a podcast after I started one. And I love giving out free advice and I love talking to people and having coffee with them. But Johnny, my partner for life, I call him sometimes my husband. We're not like technically married, but we're life partners. He was like, you can't keep going to coffee with people and giving them free advice all day if you're going to come home and like complain about your bank account or, you're going to be complaining that you don't have enough time to work on the things you need to work on. Why don't you just create a class and give it like to people for a fee that whatever it takes to like build the class and charge that. And so I did that. First I did it live and then I did another one live. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna use part of the live and then I'm gonna re-record pieces of it and give it to people. But someone in the class said, I love your approach. It's a zero BS. And I was like, thanks. Can I use that? So I don't know how to teach any other way. I'm not a teacher. My mom was a professor. So I think it's a little bit innate, but podcasting, it's not easy. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not biotech. It's not, we're not building rockets here. There's everything you want to know about starting a podcast right now is available on the internet, but how to grow it and some of the other things, there's no magic bullet. Like everybody wants a silver bullet. Like, what's the one growth hack I could do? No, it's consistency, it's hard work, and it's being strategic. Like there are strategic things you can do that people aren't talking about in podcasting to grow them. And the biggest thing is you got to have great content and a reason for people to keep coming back. So yeah, it's a zero BS. The zero BS part is just like, I don't know how to teach it any other way, but to give you everything I know and all the mistakes I made in one little packaged video course that's on demand.
Well, that's what teaching's all about, in my opinion. It's experiences, and you learn from other people's failures, so you don't make them yourself, right? I think you say on your site that you believe stories can impact change, and when we talk about courage, change is somewhat synonymous with that because when you're facing something and you need courage, it's likely that you're going through some sort of change. And so I'm wondering just why do you believe stories help with actually impacting that?
I was 16 when I learned that. So at 15, I won an essay contest writing about this Price Families charity that I was part of. And it won an essay contest and got published in the Union Tribune. And my English teacher was like, sweet, you get extra credit and an automatic A if you win. But the next year, my sister was studying abroad in DC and she met these ladies who were starting a magazine for, by, and about teens. And I was 16 and I talked my way into a job because I had that journalism clip in the Union Tribune the year before from the essay contest. And I wrote about, so my mom was a professor at San Diego State. She taught human behavior, drugs and alcohol prevention. So I interviewed one of her students who was date raped, which is pretty heavy in 1996 to have done. And then I also wrote a story about a family member's battle with alcoholism. And there was a girl on my soccer team who was really pretty, partied, really good soccer player, but like I just didn't think she was the kind of girl that would go home and read a magazine. And she came up to me at practice and she's like, hey, Shelby, I read your article to my boyfriend last night and he's going to go get help for his alcohol problem. And I was like, holy cow, that's awesome, Danielle. Like, that's amazing. And I'm 16 years old. So at 16, I learned words can travel. They can impact people. I just did a podcast with Chris Cote, that surfer, WSL commentator. He's great. And he was so honest, so real. And he talked about the joy for Vitamin Joy podcast. He talked about the joy of sobriety, being alcohol free and humor. And a friend's husband wrote in and was like, hey, I got sober last week. This was so helpful. I was like, holy, so I know these are 2 alcohol examples, but I think we never know who's going to hear a story and be affected by it. And that's when I started Wild Ideas Worth Living, my first podcast. I was like, okay, if one person listens and is impacted to go on an adventure, this is worth it. And there was a girl. So when you do a podcast, like one thing I tell all my students is think about their ideal listener. And my ideal listener was this girl who was a really good friend. She had a great job working at UCSD, but she wanted to quit to go travel and live in Costa Rica and surf. And she just developed this terrible depression because she wasn't doing it. And she didn't think her parents would approve. And so I created Wild Ideas Worth Living for her. I was like, I want her to just get the courage to quit and go for it, because otherwise she's going to just be on tons of medication for the rest of her life. And she's not going to ever unstuck herself. And what's so cool is, I don't think it was my podcast. I think it was a lot of other things, but the girl lives in Costa Rica now full time and has a travel job. And I'm sure you guys get letters from listeners, but people write in all the time from the weirdest places saying that a show that like maybe I didn't even care about or didn't think was that great impacted them and helped them go on a hike. Or one of the listeners moved to Alaska. I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but so stories are powerful, and especially when you're real and you're raw and you're honest and you're not afraid to tell your truth.
Yeah, I listened to that podcast. I think you did it maybe at the end of last year with your mom, and that one was fantastic. I mean, that's pretty cool to have your mom on and do a podcast with her about, some pretty personal stuff in your family.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So she bugged me like every single day of my life that I've had a podcast. When am I coming on your podcast? Imagine this like beautiful Jewish lady being like, when am I coming on your podcast, Shelby? You've had so-and-so on your podcast. Am I coming on? So we did it at Thanksgiving last year. And it was so funny. I just made her keep redoing parts. I was like, Mom, you cannot say that. Like, you have to just be real and be honest. Cause at first she was like a little bit performing, and then she relaxed. And my mom she's 75 and she does interventions on all sorts of different types of people with addictions. And I don't really know what she does because she won't talk to me about it. It's like a HIPAA rule. So she won't, like, friends will come up to me and say, hey, your mom saved my family's life. And I'm like, really? That's crazy. I didn't even know you had a problem in your family. I'm a little clueless when it comes to drugs and alcohol, but she is so used to talking to people, and she's good. And she doesn't know how to be any other way either, but real and honest. So I think I get that from her, and she's really, really courageous. Like, she is just a fearless woman. So.
All right. So use 3 words to describe your mom.
Yeah.
Only 3. And I prefer periods between each of those words. So I want to be clear on that. And then use 3 words to describe you.
My mom, I would say, is resilient. That's a tough
I wish you
one.
could see her face right now, everybody. She is working hard to come up with the second word.
Resilient, charming, and what's a word that is like someone who instigates change? Like, she's like can change maker be one word?
Sure. Yeah,
Inspiring
change maker. Yeah. I would think of the word
liberator,
butterfly too, because she's like really good at inspiring people to make change.
Metamorphosis.
Yeah, she's good at that. Did you say I have to do it to describe myself?
Yeah, you're up now. You're up too.
I don't know. That's a tough one. You make all your guests do this?
I'm sure you've heard all of our episodes, so you already know that answer.
Yeah, I listened to every single one of them just before doing this podcast. I would say adventurous. I got this today, so I'll just go with authentic. And I wouldn't say laid back, even though people think that about me. Authentic. I would say playful. I really like to play. There's some traits about me that aren't the most positive, but play is a positive one.
I was curious to see if curious was going to land on your list.
Oh, it would have been a good one, but I didn't think of it. That was a smart one. Curious would be a great one.
It feels like those I mean, I guess when it comes to adventure, like when you have that itch, it has to be scratched, and you've got to go, and you're like, I don't know. Like, there's been times where you're like, am I really getting paid to go do this? Do you feel that all the time? Some of the
Usually I'm
time.
not getting paid much if it's that cool, but curious, playful, and adventurous would be my three then. But yeah, like I've really, I mean, I'm sure I was ruined at a young age because my first job out of college was to be the journalist for the Vans Warped Tour. And I spent 60 days on a tour bus with 108 bands a day. And I thought all jobs would be that cool after that. And they're not. So um, I think I've worked really hard to try to find jobs that fill my soul and challenge me and are fun. And that's really hard to do and to make money doing it. So I can't always say that the path has been easy or linear. You know, it's been a bit of a windy road, but I think that's how the best adventures are, right? They don't go in a straight line. They take you sometimes around unique bends, and that's when you see the coolest thing.
Okay, but what job were you in? Yes, for going there. We're like, oh wow, that actually was really amazing. But how do I go do more of that?
Which job? I mean, the Warped Tour job was amazing. Like to have to interview, to be on a tour bus, and then have to figure out. So basically, I wrote a blog before it was called a blog. So every day I'd write like a daily diary of what happened on the Warped Tour, which a lot of shit happened. And you know, I wasn't supposed to report on the negative stuff, just like the positive one. It was part PR. And then I had to find one aspect of the tour and like narrow in on that. So I started with the roadies. I had a mentor and he was a writer for Esquire. And he's like, start broad, like go to the roadies and behind the scenes, and then go to the top musicians. So by the end of the tour, I was hanging out with Greg Graffin of Bad Religion. And, you know, instead of a traditional story, we went to a bookstore in Canada and like did summer reading for kids because he happened to be a professor of religion at like Cornell University, the lead singer of Bad Religion, which is a punk rock band. If people even listen to punk rock anymore, they were somewhat famous. So that was a good experience. That was an amazing job. I taught surfing for years at Surf Diva Surf School. Like pushing people into waves is incredible because talk about a job that changes lives. Like women go to Surf Diva and they spend a week at their camps in Mexico or Costa Rica and they quit their jobs, divorce their husbands, like become full-time surfers. It's wild. But I think a surf trip can do that to you. That was a good
Look,
job.
surfing is a huge part of my life. And I know it's like everything, you know, it's spiritual, it's exercise, it's getting out in nature. I mean, it just has such a major effect on my mood that I understand how it can change other people's lives. I wanted to just pivot for a sec to wild ideas. So you grow this thing, it's your baby. It gets big, right? You're getting attention out of it. And then REI comes to you and wants to buy it. What was that like? And then, you know, you go through this process and have a great partner. They seem like a great brand for the show. But then you start another podcast, which is really interesting. And did you face any fears with those decisions and like letting go of this thing or, you know, staying involved, but with a brand involved now?
Yeah, I think I like developed a massive amount of gray hair last year. It was so stressful. So when I started Wild Ideas, I wrote this business plan and it said sell to REI in 3 years. And I didn't really think REI would be the person. REI was just like the example of the brand that I would sell it to.
Wait,
But
so
then,
you actually wrote that on paper and that's what ended up
yeah,
happening? That's
it's
funny.
crazy. So I took this, and I've never done anything like that, like written a goal or had a business plan. It was the first time I'd done anything like that. So that's what I teach in my podcast class is like, if you're going to start a podcast and you want to treat it like a business, then you need to treat it like a business from day one as much as possible. Now, I didn't have an exit plan when I wrote this business plan 3 years ago. Like I didn't know exactly what the numbers were. And so when I started Wild Ideas, I knew I was unique in that I happened to be a female host that didn't, you know, I've never played the girl card. I've never played any card. I've just always tried to showcase people doing cool stuff. They happen to be a woman, if they happen to be gay, if they, whatever, awesome, more power to them. But I knew that was a strength. I also knew that people liked that I was in marketing and journalism. So I also knew that REI was trying to reach women through this Force of Nature campaign. And so I pitched them. And at first they were like, Shelby, you seem super enthusiastic. Great to meet you. We are not in podcasting, but keep in touch. And 6 months later, I ended up, I had to find sponsors for the podcast because I was paying an editor a lot of money. You can find editors for a lot less expensive now, but I was paying a lot of money to have somebody edit my show. And long story short, 6 months later, I had a lot of other sponsors and I was like, oh, I should reach back to REI. And I'd created this beautiful pitch deck. I'd never really built a pitch deck. And I was like, hey, do you guys want me to send you my pitch deck? And they're like, actually, we'd love to talk. We're getting in the podcast game. And within like 3 weeks, we did a licensing deal. And then they hit me up and they're like, hey, yeah, we want to buy it now. And I was like, well, now I don't know if I want to sell it. Like, so it was a really hard process because it was my baby. It was like the first pancake I baked, and I don't have kids. So like, this was my baby. So yeah, it was really hard.
You sold it? You actually sold it?
I sold it.
Kidding. Okay. So what was that process like? Were you just, I mean, the end, were you like, you woke up one morning and you're like, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I wrote a million pro con list, didn't work again. And I went surfing and I went on a hike and still didn't totally work. And like cried to my boyfriend that didn't work. And then I asked a million people their opinion and wished I hadn't. And then finally I was like, you know what? What was my goal? My original goal was to like get more people to get unstuck, use the outdoors to get unstuck and go for it. I can't do it on my own. REI can. They've been awesome. Like, let's do it. That was my original plan. And if I want to start another podcast, I can start another podcast. And the truth was, I went through a list of people I was interviewing. I was like, I've interviewed everybody I pretty much wanted to interview. And like, I have so much more to say about adventure, but I started to get really interested in health. And so I was like, you know, I think this will be really cool to have a partner. First of all, like I'm a goalkeeper. So a goalkeeper on the soccer team is like the weirdo who's kind of on their own, but they have a team in front of them. And podcasting and what I've been doing has been kind of lonely. So having this team, especially through REI and like the podcast team there is amazing. The girl who runs it is just, she's a gem. So yeah, eventually I was like, you know what, this is a really good decision. I'm going to do it. I'm going to sell it to them. And I'm happy with my decision. I sold it January of 2020, which was quite good timing. I think it's a little harder to start a podcast now and probably a little bit harder to sell it at the same time.
Well, you started a new one.
Yes.
How'd you come up with the name? I think it's a great podcast. First of all, if you haven't listened to it, check out Vitamin Joy.
Thank you, Ryan.
I love it. I went from one to the other, and my sister actually introduced me to your Wild Ideas podcast. So I have to thank her. And so how'd you come up with the new concept?
Someone said the word Vitamin Joy, and I was like, yes, that is what we need right now. Like, first, so it's a personal story. I had been struggling with a little health problem, like this autoimmune thing called vitiligo, and Michael Jackson had it. And what happens is, and there's actually Steve Martin has it. I think Joe Rogan had it on his hands. It's where your pigment gets eaten and it like turns portions of your skin white. So normally I'd be really tan. I look a little red right now. You can't tell. And there's little patches that pop up and my pigment was turning white and it's only on my face. I was like, really, on my face? Like, I'm a woman, like, bummer. Okay, I guess I have to get really real about health and wellness. And I've always been interested in it. But what I figured out is I've done ice baths, I've done sauna, I've fasted for 6 days on only water, then 5 days and 6 days on only water. I've done vegan, I've done raw, I've done paleo, I've done it all. And the best medicine has been humor and laughing. Like, I could watch inappropriate comedies or like episodes of SNL on repeat and laugh with my friends. And I'm sure you all know this. Like when you have one of those days where you laugh so hard with friends, you're like crying, like you can kind of eat whatever you want and like go running and you feel good and you wake up refreshed. You could stay up all night, but if you're laughing and having a good time, you kind of feel okay the next morning, no matter what you've done to your body the night before. And I'm like, there's something there in laughter, but all these other things are also really good. So I wanted to provide prescriptions for people to have more health and wellness in their life. There's a lot of bro science out there. A lot of the podcasts about health are really so sciencey, they're a little unattainable. The mailman's coming, sorry. The other, on the other side of that, there's a lot of bro science. And, I have a little bit of bro science in my podcast too, but I wanted to talk about health in the light of humor. Like, how can we have more humor? How is it good for us? Also, how can we get over procrastination? How can we sleep better? How can we let go of alcohol? How can we set our goals better. I don't know, but it had to be easy, like taking a vitamin, and affordable, like taking a vitamin, and as accessible as taking a vitamin. And I was interested in this concept of joy and mental health. So like, I want to keep talking about mental health because when I struggled with depression in '09, I thought as an athlete, like it wasn't cool to talk about it. And I thought I could will it away. Like I just thought that it would just take willpower. And, I think we all know now that's not totally the case. There's a lot of things that go into mental health and wellness, and it's selfish. I'm like really curious about it myself. So I go after people I just really want to know answers from, and I share them on the podcast. I'm so glad you like it because there's not as many listeners on Vitamin Joy as there are on Wild Ideas Worth Living, but I feel like the content is I'm really proud of.
Look, it's helped me, and I struggle with depression too. And
Wow.
It's something that like I had to go through, and therapy has been very helpful, but I think the people that you're bringing on there are super important and really helpful. And I think so many people in this time struggle with anxiety and depression, and just this system that has been created in America is putting these weird pressures on society that aren't innate to who we are as human beings or how we're supposed to live in harmony with nature. So I think it's really important what you're doing, and your listenership will grow.
Thank you. I hope so.
Yeah, no, I think, I can't wait for you to continue bringing on new people. And it's so important to talk about mental health right now. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing it. I think the more people who share, I think right now we're going through this time, 1930s was the Great Depression. I feel like every single friend I talk to says they have anxiety. So I feel like this time is like the great anxiety. And there's simple things you could do, like going outside in nature. A 20-minute walk in nature has been proven to be as effective as many SSRIs in the market. There's just so much, like ice baths do work. It's really hard to cry in ice cold water. Like try it, try being sad. Breath work is it's hard, but it's pretty cheap. It's free. And it can really impact your mood. And I think there's certain things that I wish they taught all of us at school, like how to meditate, how to do yoga, how to do breath work. But the cool thing is there's a lot of teaching of that going on right now. So glad you like it.
You know what's really depressing?
What?
Wearing pants. I mean, wearing pants is so depressing. I feel liberated anytime I'm not wearing pants.
It is pretty nice. Not wearing pants is like amazing. Not wearing shirts is also amazing. Like I kind of wish, this is probably going off topic, but like, I don't understand why women have to wear even bikinis. Like why? Like we shouldn't have to wear anything.
I think that your book that you're working on should be called Not Wearing Pants.
Well, there's a certain book. There's another book that I've got that's like very similar vein. This one will probably be more about adventure, but the next book is going to be called Not Wearing Pants.
What could be more of an adventure?
Tops. Just so you know, those of you listening, if you're a woman and you want to go surf naked, you should do it because it's pretty fun, but you probably want to do it in warmer water. And now that there's cameras everywhere, you just have to like try to go to an island somewhere where there's no.
I was gonna say, as a man, I can't even say, well, where should you do that? Because then it sounds like I'm a creep looking at like, oh, well, Ryan wants to know where.
Well, we've done it before in Fiji, and it was really fun. But all of a sudden, the lineup was like packed. All of a sudden, people out of nowhere started showing up. We're on an island, and I was like, how did these people find us? Quickly, and you have to, if you're a girl, put your whatever you are. If you want to surf without a top and then you don't, you can just put your bikini or board shorts or whatever it is on your leash so that you have it with you. Do not leave it on the sand because some meanie will steal your pants or your top and hide it. Keep it.
I can't say I saw our podcast landing here today, but I'm glad we're here.
Well, humor is part of it, and I feel like we should always go to naked surfing. Like I used to have this sweatshirt that said naked surfing, and I really wish someone could buy me another sweatshirt that said naked surfing because it's a great thing.
I do like the humor. Like you could see, it's the best remedy for a cloudy day, and you can call that a metaphor. And I am.
Well, it is cloudy outside.
We have our one cloudy day was going to be our original title of this podcast. We changed it at the last minute. But do you feel like, I do want to talk about depression for a minute, because I know there's shades of depression. There's like clinical depression. There's situational depression. You know, our one cloudy day is situational depression, right? But there's no doubt, like, we need to talk about this stuff. Like this, there people. I'm on record saying, you know, not only do we have this paralyzing pandemic, but we have a loneliness epidemic on our hands, and this is where, you know, selling a podcast in January of 2020 is a good idea, because adventure for the most part was halted, and we were all basically stuck inside our houses doing the best we can. And as an extrovert, there's little parts of me that die every day that I can't go see people and hug people and shake their hands.
Oh, me too.
So what do we, like, I guess my question, and I know you're not a expert, but if you had to define depression, okay, and I'll try to go first, because I'm trying to slog my way through this, and then you can tell me where I'm wrong. And I don't think this is clinical depression, because I think clinical depression is real. But any time in life where the expectation of what I wanted isn't met starts my slide into some version of depression. Now, if my wife were here right now, she's like, "Oh, Ryan, this is the one day that you're depressed," and she'll like make fun of me. But
I think that's a good one. I think it's like, there's this thing in Buddhism where they talk about how, I'm going to butcher it, but it's a little Thich Nhat Hanh-ish. It's where, when you're fighting where you are now, when you don't want to be where you are now, it's like a really crappy state to be in. And I have a few friends who are kind of going through that, and they just get so frustrated with where they're at right now, doing whatever they are. And the only way out of that is like acceptance and like leaning into that, because yeah, it's okay. First of all, we don't have to be happy all the time. Like, if we didn't feel our spectrum of emotions, maybe if we didn't feel sad, we would never feel super happy. So I'm not one of those like ultra positivity persons. Like, hey, if you're going to feel sad, but fighting that sadness, I think that sometimes for me can spin me. Like, when I fight a feeling, you can't fight. What's that? Who sings that? Can't fight the feeling. There's a song somewhere in there, like a Journey song or something.
Journey.
But yeah, fighting where you're at, maybe it's this loneliness, this pandemic for people who are single is not easy. And I empathize with anybody who is alone. Like, I have a partner, I have family. Like, I've been one of the luckiest humans ever in this pandemic. We live in this little condo complex, and I can look around and see all my neighbors. And so there's little kids across the street. They don't have any friends. So like, they have Johnny and I, because they're 5 and 4, but we're like the closest things to their friends right now that they can play with. So we've been really lucky, but I think loneliness is real, and they've studied it, and it can really spiral you. The good news is like, everybody I know is getting a vaccine right now. And I think we're really on the way out of this. And I think this in-person connection is going to be, everybody's craving it. And I think as a society, we're going to become, I'm hoping in many ways, we're actually going to become more analog. This is a high hope, even though my business is digital. I think, I don't know, maybe you and I need to talk. Maybe we can start some sort of like in-person event thing. Cause I'd really like to.
Oh, we're on it.
Okay. Well, you're already on it.
We're on that.
Join.
Yeah. I mean, humans are meant to be connected, right? Like we're tribal in nature, and, missing out on that. And also, I think you said something really important there. You go through moods, right? Like, some days you feel great, some days you don't. And it's okay. It's okay if you don't feel great. And my wife gives me great advice. She's like, just sit with that and it'll pass. And it usually does, and definitely getting outside helps. But, I think there's just all this pressure. It's like back from the military days, which is funny because we ended up here in San Diego in this beautiful place because of the military. But it's just like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or pretend like nothing's wrong, put the facade on. And, when we talk to people in corporate culture, or, in the business world, a lot of times you're putting on a facade. And I think that there's a massive movement happening, and people are interested in, these spaces of health and wellness and self-help, because something doesn't feel right. So, it's just important that that people do share. And I think, platforms like yours are really important to help inspire people and let them know that they aren't alone, right? Especially in times like this. I want to circle back to the very beginning of our conversation because you gave us this great story on, how you started in journalism and podcasting, but we didn't get to actually getting on stage, that moment.
Do it.
And look, I've had to stand on stage in front of thousands of people, and I hate doing it. Some people love it, like Berman. He loves getting on stage. He gets a lot of joy out of that. But I had to present, for my corporate job in front of a whole bunch of people, and I was always super nervous about it. And it's once you get through that experience and you practice more and more, it becomes less nerve-wracking. So I got better at it, but still I get those nerves when I get on stage. So I'm wondering for you what that was like and how you got through that.
I just remember shaking, and then I don't know, once we were rolling, as soon as I started talking, I chilled out. As soon as I heard a laugh, like for me, if I could connect with someone and they can laugh, then I'm like, got you, I'm winning. I'm sure that's how comedians are. Like, I would love to try stand up. I just would need someone to help me write some material, but they have the most ultimate job. So to answer your question, it was a laugh. It was like hearing a little bit of response and reassurance. It was like probably my mom, like my friend who was in the audience, but that felt really good.
She crushed it.
Sweet.
You did. You really did. And I have that same feeling about the stand-up thing. Like, there's part of me that's like, I'm terrified to do it, but I want to do it because you want to, like, you think you have good material, but you think you can contribute and you're going to make people happy. It's not selfish, right? It's for the right reasons.
I'm holding you both accountable. As soon as the Comedy Store opens back up, you guys are going to open mic night.
People might hate me.
Idea.
I might make fun. I might make fun of like Cardiff moms. Like, I don't know. Might be too close to home.
Well, I honestly think, like, I'm like, oh, that'd be a good joke. Suppress that thought for me to be a comedian. Suppress it, bury it. Don't even think about going on stage.
Well, I think that's the point. Is I think actually, unfortunately, we've lost a little bit of our collective sense of humor right now. Like, hey, yes, we need to be completely respectful of people, of cultures, of places. But hey, man, we need to laugh. Like, that is a cure to so many things. I'm really interested right now in like polyvagal theory and like the vagus nerve right here. They say that when jaguars escape being attacked by a lion, they like run to like a quiet spot and they like shake compulsively. And when you laugh, you shake. So I'm like, there's got to be something there of like how laughter resets our nervous system. So we're not constantly in like flight or fight. I'm still trying to find a scientist that like can explain this to me with a little bit of logic. So right now this is bro science, or I don't know what the opposite of ho science. That sounds really bad. Girl science. You might have to edit it. You can't edit this. Sorry, guys. That was completely inappropriate. This is a little bit of the female equivalent of bro science, but I think there's something there.
I definitely will connect you to some zoo people who can confirm the animal side of that, though. If that
okay,
helps.
Good, because that could have been made up too. But
yeah, so we'll see if there's something to it. But I love where your head's at on that. So let's we're coming near to the end of the show. Sadly, everyone's still wearing pants. I think we don't know that to be certain, but I'm guessing. So look, I think the show title, your Vitamin Joy. Like, when I think of Vitamin Joy, when I'm doing things that make me happy, like where there's true joy, that's why I don't have a problem getting on stage, because it's like, just like you, I went on my listening lap. It isn't like I'm pulling this shit out of thin air. I've like, as an observationalist, I've learned from all these amazing people, and I want to share it with people because I think it's going to help them. So it's different, Ryan, when you're going up in front of, like, with all due respect, 70-year-old men in corporate suits that are interested only in making money versus when it's actually aligned with your purpose. By the way, I'm not saying that's where you worked. I'm just saying the metaphorical 70-year-old man. What I really want to know from you, Shelby, is, let's say it's 20 years from now. You've not gone on all your next round of curious adventures. You've gone on all these amazing journeys, and you come back to the show. And we're still here, by the way. I still have no hair. We're still here.
I'm not wearing pants.
That's one of the three. I was going to say, what are the three? Take us through like the three new learnings or adventures you've been on 20 years from now.
20 years from now? I will have worked with kids in some way. Like that will be my jam. Like I'll be working with kids in some capacity because like that, like that junior high age is like they get me. I get them. It's so weird. Like I must be trapped in a 12-year-old's body sometimes. That will be one of the things. Wait, what am I supposed to do? So I'm basically like in 20 years.
20 years, you come back. We're still here. We're still doing the show. We're on
Okay.
episode like 2000. And you're sharing the 3 adventures you've been on. One is with kids. What else?
So I've been on adventures.
Yes.
I've lived abroad somewhere else. Hopefully like Europe, maybe Africa, maybe Europe. I don't know. Can't decide yet. Maybe Sri Lanka.
Give us one more.
I think there's like this really, I think in 20 years, there'll be a giant give back component of what I do. So like my adventure will be a little less selfish, which is a lot of my adventures are now. And they'll be a little more altruistic because like, let's be honest, that feels the best of all the adventures is like when you can include other people and help them.
And we will have started our analog in-person event
Yes,
together.
we will have done that. And I'll still be telling stupid jokes that like, and using the word wiener because it's just fun. And it's like, gives me vitamin joy. And you'll be like, Shelby, you're so old now. You're like 60 and you're still cracking jokes for 12-year-old boys. And I'll say, yes, I am.
I just think it's great that we made it to minute like 53. If you stayed this long and you got to hear Shelby say the word wiener, that was the real gift of this episode.
Do you
Thank
ever
you, Shelby.
play the wiener game in the surf? Like sometimes we'll just play it. We'll like see who can yell the word penis as loud as possible across the ocean.
I haven't heard you out there in the lineup. So
well, we'll need to
I'll
go
be
surfing. Well, you guys, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. You're such pros. Like this is probably the best podcast I've been on for real. So organized.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Fun.
Anytime you want to come back, 20 years or sooner, you can come back and we would love to have you on the show.
We'll have a lot of questions for both of you, so I will.
All right, Shelby. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Woohoo!
If you enjoyed the episode, please give us 5 stars, subscribe, and leave us a comment.
If you like what you just heard, sign up for your weekly dose of courage at returnoncourage.com.